Good morning. As Dave has said, my name is Karmen Diaz. I am the leaves manager for the university, and I'm here with you from Human Resources. And so we're going to go over sick and vacation. There have been a few changes recently, right, with sick and vacation. We're not going to focus so much on that, although we will go over it and I can answer questions about that. But we're going to talk more specifically of what the purpose of each of those types of leave are, when to use one, when to use the other, and that type of thing. If you have a question, don't hesitate to ask me, and we'll go over that, okay? And at the end also, I'll allow opportunity for questions if you have any as well, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. And is that gonna, yeah. So what is the purpose of vacation leave? Well, the university is very generous to us. They provide an opportunity for emotional and physical renewal, and employees are encouraged to take 5 consecutive days each year of vacation, so at least once a year. And I think 5 consecutive days speaks for itself in the sense that that gives you a real opportunity, right, for emotional and physical renewal. Just one day here and there doesn't do it. At least it doesn't for me. It does not do it for me.
Should that be for youth conference or like scout camp?
Well, now, if that's renewal for you, there you go. If it's not, then do another week for yourself. Okay, so scheduling vacation, that's an important part, right? Vacation must be earned or in your accrual bank before you can actually use it. And then you must, the vacation leave must be pre-approved by your manager, right? So you've communicated with your manager. He knows that you want to take vacation, what days those are, and he's okay with it. Or she's okay with it. Scheduled at a time when it's not disruptive to the department or the university. And so that, I think that, does that ever get tricky with this group? Sometimes, yeah, because I know, speaking with a few people from the painter shop, they said there's certain times of year where it's really, really busy here on campus for them. And so they don't ever take time during that time. So yeah. Additional information for administrative employees. So working a few extra hours in a week does not constitute the right to be able to say, okay, I just won't take a vacation that day. I was gone for 6 hours on Tuesday, but I worked 10 hours on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So that's not the way that the universities with administrative employees that works. So working extra hours, even some weekends, is just part of being an administrative employee. Nice, right?
Yeah, that's a real part. It gives you incentive, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it does. Okay, so vacation rollover and payouts. So as of November 2019, when the changes happened to the sick and vacation leave, no longer do we have an annual trim. Okay, so you can have in your bank up to 200% of your, whatever your annual accrual rate is. So for instance, if you were at the maximum, which is 22 days a year, right, then you could have as much as 44 days in your accrual bank at a time, right? And that would be the cap. So if you got to the cap, then the next month, so say this month one of you were at your cap, when you got to your accrual rate for the next pay period, it would not add any more time to that until you took a day or you took a few hours. Does that make sense? Okay. Vacation leave cannot be used to extend a termination date other than retirements. Because on retirements, right, we have to retire on the first day of the month. So sometimes people will use their vacation in conjunction with management and approval with that to do that. A full payout of the unused vacation balance is available upon termination. So if you have the maximum amount of your accrual, say 44 days for yourself, and you leave, you retire, you go somewhere else, you could have a payout of the full 44 days when you left the university. That'd be a nice chunk of change there, right? 44 days. Okay, so what is the purpose of sick leave? Illness and preventative care for yourself as the employee, illness and preventative care of members of your family that live in your household, and then also sick leave can be used in case of illness or accident for your parent or your in-law. So your mother or father-in-law or your own parents, you would be able to use that. And that includes preventative care. So say, for instance, you have a parent who's very ill, cannot drive themselves to the doctor. You could go get the parent, take them to the doctor, and come back and use sick leave for that purpose.
New.
That is new, yes. And that change hasn't actually, it's not in the policy yet, but we're already functioning that way. If people contact us and they say, I have a parent, could I use my sick leave? They don't live with me, but could I use my sick leave? We've been allowing them to do that. So my director approved that I could say that on this slide because it's very close to being officially put in and announced in the Y News. So. Yes, I think that's a really nice thing that they're doing for us, because oftentimes our parents don't live with us, but we do have to care for them. So one of the things that I do want to just point out is sometimes we go and have lunch with our parents because they live by themselves. That's not something you could use sick leave for. But if you're caring for the parent, like you're going to care for them, then yes, that would be considered something you could use sick leave for. And someone had a question. Yes, go ahead.
What do we do like mental illnesses? Like if someone calls up and say they're really down, depressed or anything like that, what are the guidelines on that?
Well, that's still considered illness. And so that qualifies if someone is having those types of difficulties, you are able to use sick leave to care for them in that case if you needed to. That's a great question. Yes.
I have a few older kids that are out of the house. And what if they had an issue?
So with that, it's only going to be for your parents.
Older parents or...
Yes, exactly. It will not be for children that are outside the house. If they're in the house, yes, but outside the house, you couldn't use sick leave for that. That part has not changed. Okay, let's keep going. So sick leave usage. Sick leave usage does not cover absences that occur as a matter of preference rather than a medical necessity. Management may require medical certification to verify that sick leave was used for a legitimate purpose. So our hunting trips or our ski trips would not really be appropriate to use sick leave for those things.
Can't you be depressed?
I knew somebody was going to say that. I'm really depressed. This sick leave is going to help me. No. In that particular case, remember we talked about emotional and physical renewal is what vacation is for. If you have some type of mental illness, and when I say mental illness, depression, anxiety, something that's causing a problem, you could use that for illness.
What kind of medical certification are you talking about that management may require?
Maybe a doctor's note. Like I work with a lot of people on disability, and so oftentimes they'll just provide, not details, but they'll just provide, I advised my patient to be out for this many days.
So like what I'm getting at, I guess a manager wouldn't seek that unless it was some kind of extended time. Now, like, I mean, if you're homesick, you know.
Oh, of course not. No.
Something like that.
No.
It's not like
You gotta go and see a doctor.
you gotta go see a doctor.
No. And that's a great question. It would probably be in a situation where maybe there wasn't good communication with the manager, and so the manager doesn't know what's going on, or maybe someone was abusing the sick leave because it was becoming habitual, right? It was going on and on. Then they might, I'm not saying they will, but they are within their rights to say, you know what, I would need you to please provide me medical certification. That's a great question. Okay, so let's do a little quiz here with you guys on if this is sick or vacation. Let's see if you can get 100%. I think you will. So you have a fever and a cough, sick or vacation? Sick. Very good. Your dog has a vet appointment. Vacation. Yeah,
That is
Yes.
a family member.
it is. I know. I've had so many people say that, but that's a family member. Vacation. You take time off of work for a second job. Vacation. You are having a bad hair day. Vacation. Your spouse is having surgery. Sick leave. There you go. You need to take your 90-year-old mother to a doctor's appointment. Sick leave. It's hunting season. Vacation. And your mother-in-law is coming to visit. Vacation. We all have different opinions on what that might be, but it is vacation. Okay, so pretty good. Okay, so there is a difference between sick and vacation. We don't own sick leave the way we own vacation, right? And so we do not have, the university doesn't have a PTO plan. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with that, but with a PTO plan, sick and vacation it's just one lump sum you get. And you have to use both your sick days and your vacation days come from that lump sum. Yes?
With BYU, why do some companies do that, and how come BYU doesn't do that?
I think some companies do it, at least the company I came from, where I was the HR manager, they did it, it was to save money, right? They gave 2 weeks a year, and the employees had to use everything in those 2 weeks. So that made sure that people were there. They wouldn't, because I was working in a manufacturing company. So they wanted the employees there. And also it saved money because that was less they'd have to pay out because we had a payout plan also. So that was less that they had to pay out. Now, I don't know why BYU doesn't. I'm grateful that they have actually allocated time that's just for sick and time that's for vacation, because you end up with more time to be able to care for yourself or family members by doing it that way. And also you have plenty of time for that emotional and physical renewal as well that's just dedicated to that. Does that make sense? Okay. That was a great question. Okay, so we're provided generous holiday, vacation, and sick leave plans. And it's not appropriate to take sick leave in the weeks before retirement unless there is an actual medical necessity. I know that sometimes, because the retirement specialist is in my office with me in the benefits, they oftentimes employees will say, oh, I'm just going to use, and he's like, don't tell me about this, because we're not supposed to do that. But we're not supposed to use, and I'm telling you right now that it's not appropriate to use sick leave to take some time off before you retire, because you've got this huge bank that you've never used. And I know for many of you, you're going to feel like, well, wait, that's mine. But sick leave is really not ours. It's something that the university has provided for us to help us if we are ill or a family member is ill, but we don't own it the way we own our vacation time.
So
Yes.
if you have an employee that you think is using it inappropriately,
Right.
how do you deal with the situation?
Well, that's a case in which you could ask for the medical certification and ask them to provide that. And once they did, if it was for a legitimate reason, then he's okay and you're okay. But if it's not, then you could have a talk with him and kind of review that with him and kind of explain to that individual that sick leave there's a specific purpose for it, and we shouldn't be using it for recreational purposes, but it should be used for illness of themselves or their family members. Okay, so as an insurance policy, sickness or surgery, can you afford to be off work long term? So 78% of American workers live paycheck to paycheck. Isn't that crazy? This statistic is from last year, 78%. And then 1 in 4 will be disabled before reaching the age of 67. That's a huge number. 1 in 4, that's a lot. So the reason I point that out to you is that we want to make sure that you bank plenty of sick leave, because you never know when something may happen. You may have to have a surgery. I am working with a couple of employees right now who are having knee replacements and different things, and they never anticipated that, but now they have to be out of work for quite some time. And so it's important to have that sick leave there so that you'd be able to be off and still be whole, right? You'd still get your full paycheck because you had plenty of sick leave at that moment. We do now have an opportunity in case some people don't have enough sick and vacation. For instance, sometimes we have employees who have chronic illnesses that have caused them to just continually have to use their sick leave. And as a result of that, what do they do whenever they have to have a knee replacement surgery? They've already been ill for something else and now they're out. We do now have a short-term disability plan. And it has a 7 calendar day waiting period. So you'd still want to have at least 5 sick days. You could use, if you were out of sick, you could use vacation in order to be able to cover that window there. And then the short-term disability is for 45 days. And that covers the window in case someone had to go into long-term disability, because our long-term disability has a 45-day waiting period. So that short-term disability helps to cover that gap for an employee who's out of sick and vacation.
That's a real benefit, because I had to go on that once, and it takes everything you got. It takes 45 days right off.
Yeah, exactly.
It took me to zero.
I bet.
On my
Sick leave. One of the great things about, and I'll answer your question, one of the other great things about the long-term, not the short-term disability, you cannot supplement short-term disability with sick or vacation, but with long-term disability you can. So what it actually does, even though it ends up sometimes emptying your bank, it can extend the life of it, because you're getting that 2/3 payment from the long-term disability company, and then you're just using 1/3 of whatever your pay is. You're using your sick and vacation to equal just that little bit, and you're still making yourself whole while you have to be away from the university. So anyway, those are good things to remember. And you had a question.
Yeah, with the disability benefits plan, is there any requirement that you have to use up sick time
No.
prior than those?
Nope. So with the short-term disability, you may choose to use it because you don't want to use, and I'm just about to talk about, that was a great segue into the next thing I was going to say, is that besides disability paying 2/3 of your income, disability cannot be used for a loved one who is ill, right? So maybe you want to save your sick and vacation for that, and so you use disability. Or maybe you're like, nope, I need my full paycheck every month, so I have to be out for 3 weeks. I'm using my sick leave so that I can get my full pay while I'm away. That is completely up to the employee. You are not forced to use short-term disability, and you're not forced to use the sick and vacation. Yes?
The banking is so important. How come they capped it to 40?
Well, do you guys realize that 480 hours is 12 weeks?
No, I understand, but like already I've got close to 700 hours.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, if banking is so important,
But banking's only,
why would they cap it at 480?
that's a good question. Banking is important in the sense of getting you through that 45-day window to the long-term disability. Because I'm going to tell you right now, as the disability specialist, if I am made aware in a department that someone is out for 3 weeks, I'll be contacting that individual and saying, let's look at your long-term disability benefits, because we don't want someone to be out from the university for an extended amount of time like that and not have that opportunity to use that long-term disability, not to use the sick leave, right? Because there's other things that we have to take in account too, right? Maybe the department needing to be able to have someone else there to take care of that. When someone's on long-term disability, the department has the right to use another individual to replace that person temporarily, right? So that they can continue to get the work done. Where with, if they're out on sick leave, that's not really the same option that you have. Like we're talking you have 700 hours. That could be weeks and weeks and weeks. And so in order to protect the department and the employee, that's the reason we have long-term disability. And then the sick leave cap, the reason that they did the 12 weeks is because really all we would really need is that 45 days. But they're still being generous. In the case that someone has a family member that gets ill, right? And you can't control that. You can't use long-term disability for a family member who has cancer and has to go through treatments and really needs you there with them. Does that make sense? Okay, good, great question. Any other questions about that? Okay, that was good. Okay, so someone already brought this up about excessive absences. Management may require medical certification to verify that sick leave has been or will be taken for a legitimate purpose. And then outside of FMLA, excessive absences that negatively affect work performance may be addressed through the disciplinary process. I'm sure that that rarely would happen, but that's just knowing that once that FMLA has run out, then that FMLA, I don't know how many of you are familiar with what FMLA is. Yeah, it's job protected leave. That's what it is. It's 12 weeks of job protected leave. You see that down here. The Family and Medical Leave Act provides up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave that's job protection in a 12-month period. And so once you fall outside of those 12 weeks, that's why they're having that little asterisk there, is just to let you know that once it falls outside of that, if it seems to be like someone pointed out earlier, maybe they're misusing their time, then at that point. If it's legitimate,
but BYU could still replace that person after that period.
After 12 weeks, they could, but
they still could.
That's a great question.
Is that the thing that BYU would want to do? Or
No. No. And so I will also work with other departments like the Department of the Disability here on campus, the ADA specialist here on campus. There's a lot of other things. There's no way in any way does BYU want to just terminate someone because they're outside of that period. There's a lot of other things that the university looks at and tries to help the employee. There in no way do they look at that and go, okay, 12 weeks is up, so sorry. No, the university takes an opportunity to help the employee, and never would they just, okay, that's it, it's over for you. No, that was a great question. Yeah, no, the university does not do that. They look at trying to be helpful, help the department and help the employee. They don't want to get rid of these good employees that we have here. Good question. Any other questions about that? Okay. So that's the contact information for my office. The first one, sick and vacation, and then the disability benefits, that's what I'm in charge of. That's my extension. If you have to make an adjustment to your sick and vacation, you would call compensation. They're the ones that make adjustments. So maybe you didn't accrue the way you should have for a month, then you would want to contact them and let them know that. And then we were talking about the family medical and leave. Our specialist, that's her extension. And then the wellness program, which we try to be proactive, right? The reason the wellness program is on there is thinking about being proactive and caring for ourselves, right? Then we have to use less sick leave at that time. Any other questions that anybody has about sick or vacation? Okay, thank you guys very much.